Now, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul is making waves and media rounds and emerging as a potential top-tier Republican candidate for the White House in 2016. Now, he gained national attention, of course, with that 13-hour filibuster showdown against the Obama administration's drone program last March, and he's carved out a niche as a prominent critic of the National Security Agency. Our chief Washington correspondent, Jessica Murphy, has been following along this story. And Jessica, you know, this is a race where, yes, Christie's a little bit ahead, but not by much of anybody else, Chris Christie. It really is anybody's for the taking. And Rand Paul, he seems to be saying, hey, look at me, folks, take me seriously.
He is, and you know what? People are taking him seriously. You're talking polling. There was one that came out last week that showed him really neck and neck in the lead right now. It's still early days, of course, but in the lead with Congressman Paul Ryan, of course, very prominent. Paul Ryan ran as the vice presidential candidate alongside Mitt Romney in 2012, polling a little bit ahead of Chris Christie as well in this poll, and then we're seeing trailing a bit behind Senators Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. So we are seeing him up there in the poll numbers, although as you see, it's really a split, at least a three-way split, very even, not much rallying behind any one candidate at this point there. But we're also seeing him very much as a media personality. We're seeing print articles come out about him on the weekend in the New York Times. We were seeing last week a long article in The Atlantic, for example. Even in Vogue magazine, an article that came out last fall that actually made waves over the weekend, and I'll talk about that in a bit. In terms of television, he's a regular on the television circuit, and in fact, he's going to be one of 3 Republicans giving a response to tomorrow night's State of the Union address here in D.C. He's not the official respondent for the GOP. That belongs to Congresswoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers, but he said he had so many media requests for his own response that he decided he would give one instead of doing the tour there. So we are seeing him with very much a profile, and interestingly enough, there's profile, there's also campaign. Does he have the infrastructure to run in 2016? Potentially, because his father ran in 2012, and he can essentially piggyback in some of these states where Ron Paul did very well. We're talking Iowa, we're talking New Hampshire, where Ron Paul came in 3rd and 2nd, respectively. He shows, Rand Paul, the son, shows an ability to fundraise, for example, David. So we are seeing that he does have an infrastructure, and there are reasons now to really take him seriously, alongside things like criticism of the NSA that have a broader appeal that went beyond sort of these libertarian values that he espouses, and his father did as well.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I wonder, too, if all this stuff, all those publications you mentioned, the New York Times, Vogue, et cetera, Democrat, let's call them liberal or whatever sort of things. And so he's sort of appealing to a broader thing. And I'm thinking, too, that here we have, he's been campaigning for the senior senator for Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, and maybe Mitch McConnell is putting some of these establishment sort of tools and levers at the junior senator's disposal. It's kind of a fascinating thing. Rand Paul, on those talk shows, took some serious shots at some pretty serious folks, Clintons and Obamas.
Absolutely. Look, he is not afraid to take shots. We've seen him take shots at a number of GOP rivals, Chris Christie, for example. He did have a bit of more of an appeasing viewpoint at some points during the weekend. He was on Meet the Press, NBC's. He talked about partisanship and how it didn't necessarily have to mean gridlock in Congress. Take a listen to this clip.
I'm the first to acknowledge the president and I don't agree on every issue, but if you took 10 issues, I think there are 2 or 3 that we agree on, and we may agree firmly on, and why don't we go after the issues that we agree on? It's like immigration reform, for example. We don't agree on the whole comprehensive package with the Democrats, but I'll bet you about half of it we agree on. And the question is, are we willing to narrow our focus and go after things that we can agree to and get them done? Or are we going to say so polarized that we always have to have our way or the highway?
Now, though, talking about the Clintons, he did make waves with comments. He was asked about a comment his wife made in that Vogue article I mentioned earlier that came out last fall. She talked about the issue was the war on women, this allegation that the Republicans have this war on women. And his wife said, no, not so. Let's talk about the Clintons, the way he treated, for example, Monica Lewinsky, referring to former President Bill Clinton. And Rand Paul was asked about this, and he said, hey, hey, you know, we should talk about this. If we're going to talk about the war on women and the Republicans are going to have to carry that, we have to talk about how the Democrats were very silent on that issue. So as you can see, he's very willing to come out and attack when necessary, but he's also saying, I'm ready and willing to, for example, work and reach across the aisle. So that's kind of the message that he's giving right now, David.
I think he even called Bill Clinton a predator, went so far as to do that. Some remarkable language from Senator
Strong
Paul.
words, yeah.
Yeah, on the way up. All right, Jess Murphy in Washington tonight. Thanks so much, Jeff. Appreciate it.